In this lab, I'm going to use ChatGPT to create a mortgage amortization schedule. If you don't know what a mortgage amortization schedule is, that's okay. We may want to just kind of go and say, what is a mortgage amortization schedule? But essentially will help us compute the amount of the monthly payment and the divvying up of interest and principal payment over time based on various parameters. So to do so, let's go ahead and start a new chat. And then I'm going to go right off the bat and act like I know what it's doing and ask it to create a mortgage amortization schedule. Based on the information it needs, it's going to need to know how big is the loan, what the annual interest rate is, and how long it will last. Typical would be 30 years or 360 months, and we can change that up how we want. But I'm going to ask it to create a mortgage amortization schedule. And now let's look and see what it produces, but it's going to divvy it up between revenues and expenses, and take a look at that. Okay. Now let's wait just a second for it to populate. Looks like it's produced the whole thing. That's the amount of the monthly payment, and I can see what this looks like. And it says, hey, how do you want this? And I can either peek at it on a screen or I can have it print out. Let's go ahead and have it print out this information. Now, if I wanted to print out formulas so I could see what it looked like, I would just need to request that. But I can see this mortgage amortization in an Excel file and create this mortgage amortization schedule. So I can see what that looks like. Okay, so it looks like here's the mortgage amortization schedule, and I can print that out and download it. I can look at other things. Actually, the first one says add totals, and I'm really interested in how much interest I have to pay. So recall, it's a $200,000 loan, and the question is, how much interest would I pay over the next 30 years based on that? And so what is the total interest paid over the life of the loan? And that's not the principal, so whatever the interest is, I've still got to add $200,000 to get to that total amount of payment. Now, the good news, as my wife would say, is we get to live in this house if it is our house. The bad news is we're paying an awful lot of money for that. And so the loan amount is, or the interest paid would be $231,000 over that time, or we're going to have to pay $231,000 plus the original principal of $200,000. The next step in the lab is I want to do a sensitivity analysis. For example, could I get a little bit smaller loan in terms of principal? So I want to do a sensitivity analysis. Sensitivity analysis says we want to evaluate the various assumptions. And in this case, I just want to look at the loan payment terms, the total interest paid, and I want to look at how this would be different. So if you'll recall, this is what we ran before, but now I'm doing it over 180 months. This is my base case. And then I'm going to vary the interest rate between 4 and 8% and between 60 months and 360 months. And I want it to calculate how much interest paid in each case. So it's going to produce that sensitivity analysis and show me, based on the varying parameters, the interest rate and the length of the loan, how much interest I would pay. So it looks like it's computed this, and my new base case, so this is still the same 6%, but now it's over 15 years, and that'd be $103,000. But I can kind of see what all these look like. If it's 4% and somehow are able to swing it and pay what appears to be a huge monthly payment, not very much interest. Okay, but if I get to a much higher interest rate and it lasts for 30 years, I'd pay $328,000 in interest. So you can kind of see what that looks like over time. And so let's go ahead and ask it to provide a heat map. It says it doesn't mind doing one. So let's go ahead and ask a formal prompt as we share the story or report the results to provide those results as a heat map. And so as we work through that heat map, we're going to be able to see kind of in one visual, what all these assumptions will give us in evaluating. Now, some of us might want to get a loan and not know how much interest we have to pay, because it could be kind of depressing of how much of our hard-earned money goes toward interest. But this might also allow us to make important decisions, might allow us to make a bigger down payment, or pay it over, a shorter 10 years instead of 15 years, or 10 years instead of 30 years, and try to get a lower interest rate. Okay, so here is the loan term. So the longer the loan term and the higher the interest rate means we're going to be paying the most interest, and you can kind of see what that looks like. Now we may want to read this and have it print out, so we could ask it to label it better and provide that, and often it will do that, and that would be here, add the numeric labels inside each cell, or we could do it in terms of what the monthly payment looks like as the outcome rather than the total interest paid. So we're ready now to kind of wrap it up. Let's go ahead and save that heat map to a PNG file, and we're going to title that up. Instead of heat map, we may want to say, total interest paid, or define it, describe it a little better, and then finally just to provide or display the prompts that we gave it. Okay, so it looks like we're able to download that map. We'll go to our downloads folder, and we also may want to display the prompts. I like displaying the prompts or saving the prompts out so I know what I ran. I could probably run it again. I could maybe change this up while I'm thinking about it, and then run them kind of one by one. So that completes this lab.